Deep in the forests of North America, a creature is said to exist. A creature that people are encountering.
Seriously, look how big it is.
With far too many reports to ignore, there are elements of truth behind these accounts that mankind can no longer
It's
ignore.
created almost this obsession where I need to find out
Could the
more.
breeding population of large, upright, hairy hominids really exist in North America? Or is there something more paranormal at work here? DD Woods. If just one footprint, one wood knock, or one howl was real, then man's understanding of primate evolution would be changed forever. Join Glenn Purcell and the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective as they delve further into the mysteries of Bigfoot and other paranormal phenomena through the eyes of witnesses, investigators, critics, and skeptics. Join us as we look to discover what lurks from behind tall trees.
Hi, everybody. It's Gwen Purcell here, your host with From Behind Tall Trees. I apologize for being away for a little while. We've been traveling all over the world, actually, and I'm just getting settled back into things. So if you are watching, feel free to comment and ask questions if you would like. We're going to bring our guest on tonight. We have Joe De Hoyos. He is the host from Beyond the Woodline Podcast. Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just sharing this out. And
oh, awesome.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I told you before the show that we are trying to hook up to Instagram, and believe it or not, it's not working.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
I don't know what that disconnect is, but I thought I had it and I don't have it. So I don't know what's going on, but we're everywhere else. YouTube, Twitter, all different Facebook channels, and you're sharing it. So how are you?
I'm doing great. Like I was telling you before, really we're still as a city, and even as this probably this whole Gulf Coast region, we're still getting back on our feet. I mean, you would be surprised how many down trees there still are, and how many just the piles of debris in front of people's homes from the trees.
Oh,
and it is crazy. It's
how long ago was that?
That was almost 3 weeks ago, I want to say. And people's fences are still down. There are still people that are trying to rebuild. Trees fell on their homes and stuff, and they're trying to get help from FEMA. And it's tough. And about 3 weeks prior to that, we had another storm come through and do basically the same thing to Houston, and we were without power for 3 days during that time. At least I was. And yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We've taken a beat the last couple of months.
Right. That's devastating.
Yeah.
That's really devastating.
But I've got this to keep me occupied and hopefully, keep my mind, somewhere else. Right?
Yeah. So what got you started in all of this? How you've been doing this for what, 12 years, you said?
I've been doing the research for the Bigfoot research, what I started doing in right about 2012. But it's something I've always, ever since I was a little kid, have been interested in. And I had a neighbor that lived across the street. He actually worked with my dad, and we grew up with his kids, and we're all the same age. And so this guy, his name was Andy. He had so many stories with UFOs and aliens and paranormal and Bigfoot and different creatures and cryptids. And you're talking about the late 70s and the early 80s. And I mean, I was 9, 10 years old, and he would tell us these stories and like scare us half to death, but he would also scare himself. It was funny to watch because he would tell these stories and he was so involved, he would scare himself. So I don't know where he got these stories from, and I never got a chance to really ask him. He passed away several years ago, but I still keep in contact with his kids and stuff. But and that kind of just more or less just added fuel to the fire, And then once I was old enough to learn how to cut grass and to earn money for it, and that's what I would do with the money. I would go buy these books, and they would have all kinds of stuff in it, and Everything from, like I said, UFOs, aliens, paranormal, cryptids to spontaneous human combustion, stuff, just all kinds of weird stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that spontaneous human combustion, that's probably the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah.
1 second,
You're there, and next time you're on fire.
you're on dust.
Ashes.
Crazy. Yeah, yeah. So I know that you said you haven't had any Bigfoot sightings, but what are some of the strange things that you've encountered?
So, yeah, I haven't had like a sighting, but I've seen one time I saw a red flash of fur go from one tree to the other tree, behind one tree, behind another tree, because the person that I was with at that time, we were walking down the trail. When I first started, I was taking my family out with me, using them for bait, basically, I guess. And,
Your kids aren't watching, right?
oh, they already know that they were used for bait. Yeah. But yeah, so she was like, "Hey, look, there's something over there. I saw something move," and it was maybe, I don't know, 50, 60 feet away from us, somewhere in that range. And um, I looked at the trees, and when I looked at the tree, I saw this flash of fur. It was red, almost like an orangutan, kind of orangish reddish color. And I'm like, "Yeah, there it goes, right there." And she goes, "No, not there." And she points more off to the left. She goes, "Over there." She goes, "The one I saw was gray." I was like, "Okay." So me and my brother-in-law went to go check it out, and we couldn't find anything. We're looking around the ground. It's just so much debris on the ground. We couldn't see anything.
Right.
Back, and she was like, "No." She goes, "Whatever it was way taller than you or Patrick." She goes, "Because the brush was so high, we couldn't even see you." And I'm 5'8", so I'm not extremely tall, not extremely short either. But she was like, there were places where y'all were walking and we couldn't even see you anymore because She goes, "So whatever it was way taller than you and Patrick." And yeah, so that was one incident, and it was funny because once I started meeting people in this field, and I was uh, talking about that area, like 4 different people had told me that there was a gray one in that area. So I thought that
Oh,
was,
wow.
yeah. Then one time down that same path, I was kind of going through some stuff mentally, and so I took a drive out there and was walking around, and I got hit on the bill of my cap with a rock, you know, a rock, maybe the size of a nickel, big around in diameter, and it bounced off the bill of my cap. Maybe a mile or so down from there, I was walking on down a creek, and it was way off trail, and a stick, I don't know, maybe 18 inches long, came rolling through the air, in my direction.
Oh,
Uh,
my goodness.
but in that same creek, I actually found a 3-inch track. It was maybe like in 2015, and then in 2019, I found an 8-inch track in that same creek. Yeah, so that area is very active. I talked to a hunter in that area, and he told me he would never go hunting again because uh, the creature he saw was like 6 foot tall. It wasn't very tall, but he saw one 6 foot tall, giving the old stink eye, and he said it didn't look happy. So he turned around and walked back out of the forest, and he said he would never go hunting again after that.
Wow. Now, this is all in Texas?
Yeah, all in the
Okay.
same as the forest, right? Yeah,
Okay. Okay. I
and
often wondered if there would be a Bigfoot in Texas because I've been through Texas. It seems kind of flat and
yeah, you maybe went on probably the west side of Texas. I don't know if you've ever been through East Texas. The forest from in East Texas runs almost to the Gulf Coast, all the way up into Arkansas. It's really all one big forest. But you
okay.
have them named different names, just man-made boundaries. You have, the Sam Houston, the Huntsville, the Angelina, the Davy Crockett. I think we're the second largest state with the most amount of forests, actually.
That's amazing. You wouldn't think of Texas as
Yeah,
being
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
heavily forest.
right, yeah, but it is, and a lot of swampland too, especially when you get nearer to like Louisiana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. My goodness. I know we've experienced rock throwing here in our area in Pennsylvania. We don't get hit with them, but you'll be out, walking and you'll hear this rock clear in the trees and then it comes across the yard and you're like,
Right.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I've had family members. They've got land. It's called the Hill Country.
Yeah.
It's like between Austin and San Antonio. It's a beautiful country too. And they had land up there, and they got a hold of me. I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, and they were like, "Hey, you're into the Bigfoot stuff, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they were like, "I think we got these creatures on our property," you know. And they started telling me all their stories, and yeah, they've had rocks thrown at them as
Oh
well.
my
You know,
gosh.
yeah, it's pretty
Any
crazy.
voyeuristic type of have you ever gotten reports of that? Like somebody sees a Bigfoot staring in their windows or
Yeah. My cousins told me that she woke up one day because she heard like I don't know like a grunt or a growl, and she was laying down, and she looks up above her head where the window's at, and she see these two eyes looking in at her. She
oh my
called it
god.
shimmer, but it's eye shine, of course. But
Right,
that's
right.
she used the word shimmer, so I want to quote her correctly. And she woke up her husband. He went outside with a rifle, and there was nobody out there. And I was like, "Well, how tall would this thing have to be?" And she goes, its head went all the way to the top of the window. And it's a trailer, a mobile home that's up on bricks. And she goes,
Right.
it had to be close to, 7.5 feet tall.
Oh my
And I
lord.
was like, well, how wide do you think it is? And she goes, it took that whole window, and that window is about 4 feet wide. So yeah,
Wow. That's
yeah,
pretty impressive.
yeah,
That's a pretty impressive animal.
yeah. And
What is your take, Joe? I mean, you've had a lot more years of experience with this phenomena than I have. What
you
do
know,
you
I still think that it's a flesh and blood creature. There's so many different takes on it. And uh, I mean, there's people who say it's an alien. They
think?
ride around in spaceships, that they've been left by aliens, that they were pets, right? That they've turned into orbs, that they're jumping through portals, that they're doing the mind speak, that they're cloaking. It's like there's just so many people have so many different beliefs in this creature, and there's really no evidence of any of that. Even though people have claimed to have seen it happen, and I don't discount anyone's experience or encounter. I don't. I just don't think that the Bigfoot that I'm looking for is a flesh and blood. I think there might be like another entity out there. Maybe it's non-terrestrial, or maybe it's some kind of supernatural creature that's also out there running around and gets lumped in there with Bigfoot. That's just
That's
my opinion.
yeah.
And but the reason why I don't think Bigfoot does that is because why is he only doing it in the forest? Why isn't he doing it in downtown Houston in one of the skyscrapers, on the 20th floor?
Right.
Why isn't he doing it down at the bayous here? So Houston is like called the Bayou City, and there's like 100 bayous here in Houston. And why aren't they ever seen in the bayous?
Yeah.
They're always seen out, beyond the city limits. Maybe every now and then you get one like encroaching within maybe some of the smaller towns that surround Houston, but
Right.
never like within city limits or in the middle of the street running around. So I just don't think that they do that. I just don't think they would limit themselves to the forest if they had to. And why of all places, Earth?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up because I never actually thought of it that way. Like,
Yeah,
why don't they show themselves in the middle of town? I
yeah.
mean, I think that'd be fun.
Why don't they go to the local grocery store and get all the meat they can get? Because
Right.
there's been plenty of people who have seen them take down deer and elk and moose. So
Right. Right.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, and and if they were jumping through the portals, they wouldn't waste their time chasing a deer.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. You're
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
I recently had a gentleman show up at one of our research expeditions and he told me some pretty crazy things about portals and
Mhm.
and
You know,
I when he sat there for 45 minutes telling me these stories and then went, I'm gonna go get ice cream. And I was like, what the hell just happened? Like you just
yeah,
can't come in here, bombshell us, and then be like, I'm gonna go have ice cream. I
right.
was like,
And I think portals exist. I think portals do, appear from time to time, and they probably appear a lot more than what people know. There's just nobody around to see
to
them
see
open
them.
up.
Right,
You know,
right.
but and who's to say that a Bigfoot hasn't walked through a portal? But
True.
do I think that they create the portal? Probably not.
No.
Uh, but it's and that's just my opinion. People don't agree with that, but that's just what I think.
Well, that's
Um,
just the beauty of it, isn't it? None of us have the answers.
no, nobody has any of the answers, and like I said, there was actually a list today. Someone printed in the Jevning Research Group, which I'm a part of, his research group. I don't know if you know William Jevning.
The
Yeah,
name, yeah.
but yeah, yeah. Someone posted in the group today this list of like what everyone thinks that they are, and it's like someone's got to be wrong, right? You
Right,
know,
right.
you know, yeah.
But
Not everybody.
somebody's going to be right.
Yeah, somebody's got to be right.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I try to approach it as if I see it come out of an alien spaceship, I'll jump into that camp. If I see it
Yeah.
come out of a portal, then I'll be like, okay,
Yeah, if I see it turn into an orb,
right.
if I
Until
see it open
then,
a portal,
right,
right,
right. Until then, I try to remain open-minded and let the experiences
yeah,
kind of
if I see a cloak, and there's even people who say they've seen them turn into trees or turn into rocks or boulders, whatever, so it's like, these things are like beyond the X-Men right here,
right.
Yeah,
True story.
yeah.
Have you ever had anything where you've had any kind of a Bigfoot or Bigfoot type activity along with something that maybe is in another subject?
What do you mean?
Well, a lot of people say that when they see Bigfoot, they also see
The
like
orbs
spaceships
and
or
yeah,
orbs. Or have you ever experienced any of that?
that's never happened to me. Never. Like I said, I've been doing this 12 years, and it's never ever happened. Um, so like besides that, that the flash of fur I saw, I've also seen, the red eye shine. Um, um, One time we were at our location that we mainly camp at, and out at the wood line, I could see this dark figure like rocking side to side. And I was looking so hard because I wanted to make sure that my eyes weren't messing with you. Because I don't know if you've ever been out at night, but your
Yes.
eyes can kind of, mess with you a little bit. And I kept looking away. I made sure I wasn't looking at the fire, and I would look back up at that spot. And my friends were like, "Well, Joe, what are you looking at?" I'm like, "I'm just looking," because I didn't want to tell them anything. And then the next morning, I told them what I was looking at. They were like, "Dude, you should have told us. We could have looked at it." And I was like, I just wasn't sure if that's,
Right.
but I'm pretty sure there was one standing there, but I just, I can't say for 100% certainty.
That's just that the shadows can really play with you.
Yeah,
They can really play with you at
right.
nighttime.
And so in that same camping spot, we were out there. It was me, uh, my son Jake, my friend Jacob, my buddy Armando, and we were in this little clearing. But we kind of had our trucks parked in a little circle, and we were getting everything together. We were getting ready to leave. It was late at night. It was maybe like midnight. It was during the week. I had to go to work the next morning, and we're putting our stuff in, and I hear something hit the ground. I figured one of the guys dropped like a flashlight or something, right? And they were like, "Hey, Joe, look, look!" And I looked over there, and they got their lights on the ground, and there's this rock laying there, and they were like, "This rock came in and landed, right in the middle of all of us." And the rock was, I don't know, maybe the size of a lime, those small round limes. It was about that
Mhm.
big. So we were like, "Well, let's just stay out here and see if anything else happens." So we're sitting out there, and my friend Jacob goes, "Look, eye shine, eye shine." And as I look up, I see these two red eyes, kind of like the head turns and walks back into the forest. So there's a pond right there. So we're waiting there, and we're looking at that pond. And, it was maybe 10, 15 minutes later, we're kind of calming down a little bit. And I see the eye shine again, but at ground level this time. It's at ground
Oh,
level.
wow.
And when I point, look, look, there it goes. There it goes. It disappears. You know,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
But
gosh.
but they were definitely forward-facing eyes. In the front. Those same two reddish orange eyes. That were looking at us.
Wow. I hear a lot of people report reddish eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Then my buddy, he had an encounter. Uh, Maybe it's like maybe a 25-minute drive from where we do our main research. But that's how I met him. He contacted me, told me he had an encounter. It was on the other side of the freeway. There's a highway that kind of splits to San Houston, and he had it on the east side of that 45 there. So that's become another research area of ours. And back in October, we went out there, and when we got there, we parked, and he parked like right next to the wood line. As soon as I got out, I could have grabbed a tree, literally grabbed a tree. And I heard something moving. Well, we both heard it moving. It sounded like there was like a truck getting pushed at like 2 or 3 miles an hour, just getting like just all this brush getting moved in this place. And I look at him, and he looks at me, and I'm pointing, and he's like nodding his head like he agrees that he heard it. So I walk around to the tailgate part of the truck. He's coming around, and we hear more movement, more towards like our 2 o'clock, and it sounds loud again. It just sounds like something's like dragging its feet. like a person dragging his feet through all that debris. And he's like, I want to go check it out. I want to go check it out. And I'm like, dude, no, stay right here. Stay right here. We're not going in these woods. And I just had a bad feeling. So he's like, well, I want to go check. And I said, okay, well, go check, and I'll stay more down this way because it's like a little road, but it kind of ends. There's like a little bridge, and so there's like a deep little creek there, and it's maybe, I don't know, 6 feet deep, maybe. The embankment. So I said, well, I'm gonna walk out this way. So as he's walking that way, and I'm walking towards that little bridge, we hear something like do like this tongue pop. It was like it was this weird thing, and he stops and he turns around and he looks at me, and I'm like, at this time we're just like using like hand signals and stuff, and I'm like just shaking my head, like pointing to my ear, like, yeah, I heard it, right? And at that same time, we heard like something get thrown through the trees. You could hear it going through the trees, and then I heard this loud thud on the road that we just came down. It was like one solid thud, and at that time, I thought they threw something. It was a distraction. But Walter's like, I want to go down to this creek. I want to go down to this creek. I said, well, okay, when you go down that way, I'm gonna go around this way, around that on the other side of this bridge. He was kind of going to the left. I was going to the right. I got near where it turns into a bank. It's a pretty steep drop, and I hear something walking in the water, and it goes under the bridge. It goes under the culvert. That culvert's, I don't know, maybe 7-8 feet in diameter. It's going under that culvert, and I look towards him, and before I could say, hey, it's going your way, he's coming up that bank. He's like, nope, they're down there. I can hear them moving around. They sound like they're panicked. And I said, well, let's get the hell out of here, because at that point I kind of felt like whatever it was should have ran away from us. If it was an animal, it. So I don't know if you guys have ever been in the woods at night, but you can hear deer and hogs. Hogs are walking around, they're grunting and snorting anyway, just on their own.
Yeah.
But if they're mad at you, they're going to really grunt at you. Deer, they're going to blow at you. They're going to grunt at you. They're going to stomp.
Yep.
This thing was making no noise other than the footsteps and that one tongue popping that we heard. And at that time, I kind of just felt like they were regrouping, and they were either getting ready to defend themselves, which wasn't a good thing, or go on the offensive, which wasn't a good thing. And people have told me, well, why did you leave? Why did you leave? That's what you're supposed to do, right? But if it's even like, any other animal, you don't stick around and wait for them to get pissed off,
No.
No,
Just because you're researching something doesn't mean you stay there to get killed.
Yeah, to get ripped apart, and but yeah, I just had a bad feeling, and I was like, no, we gotta take off. And that's only like the second time that I've ever had a feeling like that, like I needed to leave.
Do you think they're aggressive where you are?
I think it seems to be like more in the South that they are aggressive, but maybe they're just more territory. Maybe they're getting pushed out of their out of their home, out of their ecosystem, and so they're kind of bumping elbows with everybody, and they don't like it.
Right.
And I do know that particular area also is growing up. They're actually cutting down a bunch of forests there. And it's really sad to see either way.
Yeah.
I hate seeing forests tore up like that. Yeah. That was one of the and we drove back, and it was, like I said, 25 maybe 30-minute trip all the way back to our camp, and I mean we didn't say anything all the way back. We were just like, we were pretty much done. So, and then also what I was going to say too was about what I thought was thrown. There was nothing in the road, and when I play it back in my mind, I heard the one thud. It wasn't like I heard this thud and I heard something rolling or tumbling like it was thrown. So I'm thinking now that it ran across the road, like it took one step.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that tongue pop was their cue. Hey, throw that and then run across the road. When I heard going through the trees.
Right.
That's what I think that was. But
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Like I said, any animal could have ran.
Yeah, I've not had that close of an. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I don't like to say that I'm habituating with one, because I don't think they're here. Like, my backyard is not their living room. I think they wander. I think they come in and out of my area, but it's been pretty close already. A girlfriend of mine she'll come up and we'll camp in my backyard, and we leave a voice recorder out all night long, and we get all kinds of crazy noises and pops and footsteps, and like they're coming in and checking us out. Right. And then they go back into the woods. But I've not ever had anything like that I felt scared. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't think you give them a reason to be aggressive, you know. And like I said, that goes with any other animal too, you know, whether it be hogs or coyote or you know, even deer, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you get too close to a deer and he might warn you a little bit, and if you don't heed that warning.
I remember being a little girl, and I would go hunting with, well, not even a little girl, I think I was a teenager. My dad took me out in the middle of the woods and sat me there. Here, you sit here. And it was dark. So I'm like sitting there waiting for the daylight, and I heard this thing come up behind me. And like you said, I heard the foot stomp, and they were snorting. And I was like, I never heard a deer do that before. Right. Scared the daylights out of me. I thought something was going to kill me. Yeah. But it's when you're not expecting it, it's, yeah.
I heard I came up on a donkey one time in the middle of the woods. Dude, when that sucker went off, that scared the hell out of me, you know.
What the hell was a donkey doing in the middle of the woods?
He probably got out or something, and
oh,
you know.
My Lord, that's insane. Yeah, that would be an experience I've never had before. A donkey. Oh my gosh. Oh. So tell me, before we went live, you were telling me about something you saw in the sky that I am most fascinated by.
Yeah, so I used to go fish all the time. It was almost like every weekend kind of a deal. And this one particular weekend, we were in Galveston, and the gentleman I was with, he was maybe, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 feet down to my right. We were on the jetties and, you know, just enjoying. It was a beautiful night, clear night. Water wasn't too rough at all. Nice, friendly waves, you know, and just really enjoying the night, you know. And all of a sudden, I hear him go, Joe, and I look at him, and he points up to our left. He's like, look, what's that? What's that? And I look up, and we see this round disc craft flying right above us. And we only could see the bottom of it because it was almost directly right above us. And it was no lights, no sound. You know, there weren't any kind of wings or propellers or any kind of propulsion that we could see. And maybe, I don't know, 3-4 miles down the road where we were at, there's a smaller airport, and you could hear those planes coming in, you know. And this thing was right above us and made no noise, and it was so smooth. And you know, like most craft have to maintain an airspeed to be able to fly, right? This thing was just like barely moving. I mean, it was just super slow, and it was right above us. And like I tell everybody, I think a professional baseball player could have hit it with a baseball. And it took maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes for it to get on down the beach and out of our sight, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And this was, like I said, it was a round disc, and I'll never forget it. Never forget it. And but I can only see the bottom.
When you get in the car and you're driving home and you don't say anything to each other because you're like, I don't know what the hell I just saw.
Yeah.
Like.
And then one night I was at my friend's house, and he lives out by the San Luis Forest. And I was getting ready to leave, and we're saying our goodbyes, and we both look up at the same time. We're like, look at that! And we see these two lights coming at each other, and we thought they were going to hit, and they didn't. They kind of stopped, and then they made, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 loops, and then they just took off that way again. You know, that was the craziest thing.
And there's nothing that we have that flies that is able to move like that.
Right. And I thought, well, maybe there were satellites, but they did that, and then they took off, and I've seen satellites. These things move way faster than satellites, and you know. And I will say they were just 2 little bright spots in the sky, but they did look like they were within our atmosphere. If that makes sense, you know.
Oh
they didn't look like stars, you know. That was crazy. You know?
That is insane.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do if I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an instance here a few years ago. I don't know. I think it was like 10:30 at night. My husband was letting the dogs out, and he starts screaming for me. I go outside. I'm like, I don't know what the hell's happening. The dogs are like focused. There was a light above our neighbor's house, and it was going real slow. And when it turned, it was like 3 red lights up and down. but it was going back and forth like this. And I'm like, what the hell is that? There was no sound whatsoever. And it just kind of went down the street and then made a 90-degree turn and went down the street and then made another 90-degree turn. It looked like it was coming down our driveway. Well, I started to panic, like freaking out, like, oh my God. But then it made a 90-degree turn, went behind a tree and just disappeared. But there was no sound. Like if that would have been a drone, you would have heard something, right? But nothing makes a 90-degree turn that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Have you ever talked to anybody else about that? Has anybody else ever seen that same thing? Do you know?
I have no idea. The neighbors here all think I'm crazy. So
yeah. That's okay. That's okay.
I go out and I'm like, have you guys heard anything? Have you seen anything? And they're like, no, Gwen. No Bigfoot here. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm sure I have family members and friends that probably think I'm crazy, but a lot of people will contact me and say, hey, this happened to me, or I saw this, and I've gotten that so many times.
Do you find that people come to you? I know in my area, people do not want to talk about it. Like I've gotten reports from as far back as 1970 something, but it's like pulling teeth with people. The people here just do not want to spill the beans, so to speak. I know people have seen something or heard something or had some kind of experience, but getting them to talk about it do you find that in your area too?
Not really. I hear people say it, but people will tell me stuff all the time, But I mean, like I could be in a doctor's office and there's a stranger sitting there and he'll tell me what's going on with him. And I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me. I could be in the line at the grocery store and somebody will tell me their whole life stories and waiting in line to cash out, or to check out. So, but yeah, people will come and talk to me. I had some Bigfoot stickers made for my decal for one of my older trucks that I used to have.
Yeah.
And I sent him the artwork and everything. When the day came for me to go pick him up, I showed up at his shop, and he's like, "Hey, you mind if I ask you what's going on with these stickers? These decals?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm into that subject." He's like, "Oh, really?" He goes, "My family grew up in Nacogdoches, Texas, which is like, I don't know, like an hour and a half northwest of Houston, maybe 2 hours, and it's still a very wooded area out there too." And he said that his family grew up there, and his grandmother used to tell him that they had a Bigfoot that would come up to the window and look in their window. He said his uncles told him that they were walking on the railroad tracks one day, and they got those big white rocks, and they said that they were walking and they almost walked up on this big white Bigfoot because he was squatted down, and they said they saw it stand up and walk off into the woods. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's funny. People will tell me stuff. I had a guy one day. I was going to work. It was early in the morning. I've got decals on my truck, and he's like, "Hey man, I see your truck here all the time." He goes, "You're into Bigfoot?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he started telling me about a story that one of his coworkers had told him about, seeing one cross the road one day, and
oh my gosh.
yeah. So I like having the decals. I like having a shirt, with Bigfoot. People will come and talk to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty
I
cool.
found that people are starting to open up because I'm on the radio here, and in fact, it's Saturday. We're having this huge cryptid and Bigfoot festival in the town next to us, and so we were just out putting up signs before the show started, and people were beeping their horns. But I know on Saturday I'm going to be bombarded with people coming up to me and telling me things. So this area is starting to come around, but it's taken several years for people to come around. And I still get a lot of, I don't want you to share that.
Yeah.
I don't want you to share that because people think I'm crazy. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm crazy. It's okay. I laugh with people when they make fun of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that a lot too. Hey, don't tell anybody, but this happened to you, or I saw this. And
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know up north, our Bigfoots here that I've gotten reports of anyway, and the two that I've seen are pretty tall. Like my first sighting was probably a 9-10 footer.
Oh wow!
Completely black. Do you find that they're smaller in Texas where you live?
Yeah, it seems like. I mean, you're talking about. I bet I don't know, 80-90% I hear are like 7 feet tall, maybe 7.5 foot tall. When
Right.
my buddy Walter had his, he told me the one he saw was 9.5 feet tall,
Wow.
and I was like, really? And I'm not saying I didn't believe him, but I was just like, okay, that's just the adrenaline pumping, and it got to him, and he's like, yeah, there was this white spot on the tree, which is a fungus, and he's like, his head was right at that spot. I was like, okay, and so this is the first time I had met him, and we went out to his area, and he took me to the tree, and there was a white spot on that tree. We measured it, 9.5 feet tall. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah, and that's only like the I don't know, maybe third time I heard of one that tall this far down south. The other guy, he told me that the one he saw was every bit of 10 feet tall, and yeah, yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah,
Those are big boys.
yeah. Those are big. Yeah, they're pretty
Big
big.
boys.
But,
Big boys.
yeah.
I just recently got back from the UK and I found it hilarious. We were doing I spoke at a conference there, and the guy that was sitting next to me at the round table, somebody asked a question, we all answered it, we got to him, and he went, "There's no such thing as Bigfoot." Like, what? What are we all doing here then, right? Because just get up and leave. But he seems to believe that you have to have at least 500, this was his quote, 500 Bigfoot in order to have a breeding population to maintain, because of course you don't want inbreeding and all of that. Do you think that there's 500 Bigfoot in Texas, or do you think, I mean, what do you think is happening? How are they?
Yeah, I think there's definitely more than 500 Bigfoot in Texas. Um, do I think there's 10,000 in Texas? No, maybe within the United States, I would think maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and that's maybe on the far end. But I think there's enough. I found a 3-inch track, right? A
Right.
3-inch track. That tells me that there's babies. That the 8-inch track tells me that there's babies or young ones or juveniles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like I said, the guy said the one he saw was 6 foot tall. So I don't think that was a full grown one, or at least a mature one.
Right.
And so yeah, I think there's more than 500 in Texas for sure. And I mean, there's just so many areas uh, where they have sightings. I mean, there are sightings in El Paso, not a lot, but people have seen them. Up around the New Mexico Texas border, people have seen them. Um, Way up in the Panhandle, along the coast of Arkansas, along the edge of the border of Arkansas and Texas, along the whole forested area is called the Big Thicket. Sightings there, sightings in near the border. So yeah, if there's just one or two making their rounds, man, they're doing some heck of some moving. I'll tell you that much.
Right. Right. Right.
But
Do
yeah,
you think they stay there year round, or do they travel?
well, at least in this part of Texas, they're spotted year round. I've never gone through a summer where they're not here. They might not be as active, but they're still here in the summertime. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a question I get asked a lot, whether I think they migrate, are they nomadic, or do they?
And I think they are for the most part.
Yeah.
But I think maybe a few might hang back, and who knows for what reason? Maybe they're loners. Maybe they just don't want to move. And
Right.
if they have everything they need, even in the dead of summer during the same season. I mean, there's plenty of water. That water's still cool enough to get in there and cool off.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I often say we have a cave. Well, it's not even a cave system. Where I live, it's a heavily, well, it used to be a heavily mined coal area. So there are a lot of abandoned mines
Right.
out in the mountains around here that I think, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Centralia. It's actually on fire. Back in the late 60s, I believe it was, they had a coal mine catch on fire, and
Okay.
it's still burning today.
Still burning. Wow. Yeah.
You can see in the wintertime, you go out there, you see all these pockets of steam. And I
Oh, okay.
wonder if they're using these abandoned mines and things to just stay here.
Yeah. You know what? And even here in Texas, we have an extensive cave system, and there's
Mhm.
so much of this cave system that's still unmapped. People still to this very day discover caves on their property. Um, and if you've ever been in a cave, the temperature difference is radical. Uh, so like near San Antonio, there's a natural bridge.
Right.
Like I said, it's I think today we were 95. Even if you go into that cave system, you're gonna need like a little hoodie or a sweater, because it gets chilly down there.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so the cave system here in Texas is pretty enormous. It actually is. There's a lot of caves under San Antonio and Austin, all through that area. And like I said, people still to this day are digging on their property for whatever reason, and they'll find a cave opening. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Have you ever been in these caves?
There was some property that a guy had near San Antonio, and I've been to his caves over there. But those are marked caves.
Right.
People know about it, but they weren't like really extensive caves.
Oh wow.
The cave systems here, we have a mixture of what's called the wet and dry caves. Like the wet
Okay.
is one formed by water. The dry ones are the ones that are formed by earthquakes or what have you. And that's how you get the hill country was through earthquakes. Yeah.
Right. Right.
And
Hmm.
and I'm sure these things know that those caves like the back of their hand. And that's how they're seen so much in the hill country and disappear so quickly because they probably understand that to get into the caves and and hide.
Yeah, that's oh, you talk about you guys just have these hurricanes come through, and I wonder what happens to them. Like I know when and we still get wildfire smoke from Canada, but there this past I want to say spring, the smoke coming down from Canada was so bad that they
Oh,
like deemed our air quality to be
right. Yeah.
horrendous. And I wonder, where they go.
Well, I'm sure that they find areas just like every other animal does. The deer get out, the hogs get out, coyotes get out. They know where to go and protect themselves. And during a storm too, I've actually heard of these things winding up on people's porches.
Really?
Or yeah, or in people's barns or sheds. They know how to get shelter. Probably better than like I said, most of the other animals. Even though the other animals know how to get out and survive, they probably understand cover and shelter a lot better than the other animals do.
Probably
Uh,
better than we do.
yeah, probably better than we do it. Yeah, and yeah.
Oh my
So
Lord. That's
uh,
incredible. That's incredible. So tell me some of your paranormal experiences.
so long time ago, another life, I was married, and we had moved into this house, and it was across the street from my in-laws. Um, that house had stayed empty for like 5 years, and the people that owned it were the only owners of that house. They wound up dying. They were like in their 90s, late 90s actually, like 96, 97, and they died relatively close to each other. And so the house stayed empty for like 5 years. We move in, still had all their furniture was there, so we're like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah, because their kids owned it and they knew my ex and stuff, because she grew up, you know, right there with them, so they knew her and they were like, "Do you want to move in? Move in." So we were like, "Yeah, hell yeah." So uh, I was there, I don't know, 2 or 3 days, and I felt the bed go down, and I thought it was my dog. I had a boxer, and I thought it was him, and he knew better than to get on the bed. So I sat up real quick. I was gonna be like, "Get off the bed," and there was nobody there. And then I don't know, a few days, maybe a week later, I felt it again, and the family is there in the kitchen making breakfast, and I just go into the kitchen. I'm like, "This house is haunted," and everyone was like, "Yeah, it is. It is." They had all within that time frame experienced something. I had 3 kids. They were all experienced
In
something.
just a few days.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my
just,
gosh.
yeah, yeah. My oldest told me that she was home by herself. I guess we all went to the grocery store or whatever, and she was home by herself with a dog. And she said she heard footsteps coming from the living room, and even the dog jumped off the bed and went to the living room like he was looking for somebody because he heard the footsteps too. Um, I was sitting on the edge of the bed just like I'm sitting down right now, and I was getting ready to go to work. It was like I don't know 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, and I was just there trying to wake up, and I felt somebody poke me in the ribs. You've been poked in the ribs, like someone's messing with you and they poke you in the ribs, or you poke
Yeah.
somebody in the ribs too, right? That same thing. I got poked in the ribs, and I turned around real quick to see if it was my ex, and she was out like a light, you know.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so one time, my oldest, she had graduated high school and she was home, and she called me and she said, "Hey, I'm here watching TV, and like where the TV's at, there's like the hallways right next to it, and then you see her door." She says, "I heard my doorknob turn, and I saw the door open a little bit. And of course, it was in the middle of the daytime, so all the light was coming through, and she could see someone like look at her through the crack, like they poked their head through that crack." And she said they went back into the room, and
Oh my gosh.
yeah, my son, when he graduated the next year, he was getting ready to go into the Marine Corps, and so he was waiting on his leave date, and he was just sitting at home watching TV, and he said that out of the corner of his eye, he saw some movement, like someone was standing right there next to him, and when he looked, he saw this smoky gray figure of a person standing there, and they squat down, and they had their finger extended, and he had his arm on the couch on the wrist, and it just barely touched him, like on the hairs.
Oh my
He said
God.
all his hair stood up, and it just disappeared. Yeah. Uh,
That's incredible.
and then
They weren't scared?
no, we were. It's unnerving. I'm gonna tell you that much. Yeah, it can surprise you, and it can probably scare you a little bit too. But it never like freaked us out. Like we need to get the hell out of here, right? Um, One time my youngest was eating breakfast and uh, had a bowl of cereal. I walked behind him and he turned around and he looked at me and he was like, "Did you tap me on the shoulder?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Yeah, someone tapped me on the shoulder." You know. Um, yeah, my oldest, she was playing video games one day and I came home from work and it was late at night and I was in the process of taking my jacket off, so I kind of had my arms, you get your arms behind you.
Yeah.
So I saw her like move to the side and she turned around, she told me, "Stop it." And I'm like, and when she said that, and she looked at me and she realized the position I was in, and that actually I was pretty far away from her. She just kind of looked at me, and I'm like, "What happened?" She goes, she covered her mouth. She's like, "Someone just poked me in the side. Somebody just poked me in the side." Yeah,
I love paranormal stories. I
yeah.
I started out as a paranormal
Oh,
investigator.
did you? Okay.
I didn't believe in Bigfoot at
Oh,
all, until one day it stepped into my life, and then it's been downhill since then.
and I'll tell you another story. We were doing some remodeling to the main hallway and to the master bath, and my cousins were going to be the ones doing it. And so they came over that night and they were going to talk about, okay, tomorrow morning when we come in, they were game planning and stuff like that, letting us know what all they were going to do. My cousin, Manuel, he kept looking down at his arm. The whole time he's talking to us, he's looking down at his arm. He's like rubbing his arm. And at this time, me and my family, we're all kind of looking at each other like something's going on over there with Manuel, right? Manuel looks at my other cousin. He goes, "Dude, what are you doing to me?" And my other cousin's like, "Dude, I'm standing way over here, you know?" And he goes, "I feel like someone's grabbing my arm." And he keeps talking and he looks down at his arm and he walks across the kitchen and he grabs me by the arm and he squeezes my arm really tight. He goes, "Dude, this is what it feels like, right?"
Oh my
And
gosh.
so at that point, we started telling him all about the house, everything that's happened to us, right? Everything we've experienced. The next morning, he comes in to do some work and he's like, "Hey, come here, cuz I want to show you something." He holds his arm up. He's got 4 bruises that are like fingers.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
fingers, yeah. I just don't think that the people that own the house wanted him to do any kind of remodeling and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
nothing scary.
right, right.
Like I said, one night I woke up. It was, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up and there's a window right there, so there's a little bit of ambient light, from like the outside lights coming in.
Yeah.
And there's a dark figure standing there, and it's a woman because I could see her outline. A very feminine figure, and then but she had a dress on, but it was all in black, just a silhouette. And she moved towards me. When she moved towards me, I threw a kick. I said, "Get back!" You know. And yeah,
Oh
and
my gosh.
and what was funny is like when I threw my kick, she disappeared, and when my foot came down, I hit my dog. So my dog was in there, and he knew better than to come into that room. So he was in there for a reason.
Right.
'Cause, like he
Protect
wasn't
you.
allowed. Yeah, yeah, or just
Oh
just
my
maybe
God.
just investigating. Yeah, because we didn't allow him in the master bedroom. We just didn't want him on the bed or anything. And
That
like we
is
could,
crazy.
we could be laying in bed and we could be, "Come here, Atlas, come here, Atlas," and he would go to the door and he wouldn't come in because he knew that it was a trap. He wouldn't mess with them. But so for him to be in there and in the middle of the night, you know, yeah,
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. That's pretty incredible. We
we
have
had
4
faucets
ghosts here
coming
in our
on.
current house.
Yeah, we had faucets come on.
Oh my
The
gosh.
the shower, it had that big knob where you had to pull it out and turn it left or right for hot or cold. That
Yeah.
thing would come on, all by itself. The kitchen faucet will come on. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have an entity in our garage. It's a woman,
Mhm.
and I don't think she likes me because she's pushed me down the stairs a couple of times.
Oh wow. Okay.
I actually moved my office inside the house because I don't like to be out there because she's not very friendly, that
No.
lady in the garage. But that's the
Okay.
only like negative
Yeah.
entity that I've
Yeah.
ever had in my entire life.
But, I think just because something is, I don't know, maybe aggressive, doesn't necessarily mean that it's evil or
Right.
demonic. Who knows why she doesn't want you around?
Right.
Maybe, it could be hundreds of reasons, right? Why she doesn't want you around, you
Hmm.
know? And it has nothing to do with it being demonic
No,
or evil.
no.
I think that word gets thrown around way too much,
Way too much. Way too much.
you
I
know.
know people have called me and said, I've got something in my house and I don't feel right. You need to come get it out of here. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's probably nothing really. Because
Yeah.
how many times is it actually demonic?
Yeah. And if it wanted
Mm.
to hurt you, it'd have been hurting you every day,
Right.
making you get out, chasing you
Right.
out of that house, literally, which, it does happen from time to time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 Most times though, it's not happy about something you've done.
Yeah. Or
And it's
just
just
not
letting
happy,
you
period.
know that,
You know.
hey,
Yeah. Maybe it's just they're not just happy, period, because of where they're at and they can't go
right,
move on or whatever. And like we were told, hey, you want us to come and get them out? And I was like, no, because if they wanted to leave, they could leave. And we even said, hey,
absolutely.
look, you guys can leave. If you guys want to leave, you can leave. If you want to stay, stay. Just don't scare the hell out of us. And and they seem to abide by that. I
Yeah.
think anytime that they scared us, it wasn't their intent. Like when she was standing next to me in the bed, you
Yeah.
know, you know. So
Yeah.
she never tried to scare us, or you know, it's just like I said, kind of freaky, kind of unnerving.
Oh yeah, because you don't expect it, and there's
Yeah,
not something there. You know what I mean? Like it's not
yeah,
you can't reach out and feel it, so to speak. So
right.
it's kind of
And I wish I had my phone from that time because, and I know there's these things that people tell you orbs aren't real or they don't exist, but
oh yeah,
you know, until you see it and actually witness it, you can't say that they don't exist. Because
right,
I'm telling you, we've caught them on camera and you couldn't see them with your eyes. And I promise you, we did not have a house full of bugs. We did not have a dirty house. Especially in my bedroom. Like I said, I didn't even allow the dog in there because of dog hair. I didn't want to get.
right.
He's a boxer. He wanted to like they shed around anyway.
Oh,
But still, I didn't want any of that on the pillows or the blankets or even on the carpet.
right.
Uh, and we would catch these orbs all the time, either in the master or in my daughter's room,
Yeah.
because that's going to be the two places that had the most activity.
Have you ever got them saying anything?
So one time, my son, my oldest daughter said that she was laying in bed and she saw the dark shadow go from one side to the other side of her room, from one corner to the other corner. And so I told my son, I said, "Hey, go grab my recorder, my Bigfoot recorder, and we'll do an EVP session, right?" And so me and my other two kids are standing in the living room, we're talking, and I kind of noticed he's taking a long time, but I didn't really let it uh, really think about it too much, I guess. And I seen him coming, and he's white as a ghost. He's like, Dad, you got to hear this. And he gives me the recorder, and he hits play, and you can hear him say, "Is there anyone here with us?" And you hear a voice go, "Yeah," it's just like that. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
I
gosh,
still got it. As a matter of fact, I'll send it to you.
that is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. That was the only time we tried that. That was the only time we did that. But from what I understand, still to this day, that house does have activity. Still to this day.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
yeah,
Have
yeah.
you
Because
ever had them come to you and ask you about it?
who's that?
The people that live there now or past residents after you?
No, it's my ex is still there.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so like my kids have passed on stories to me.
Oh my God.
By the time my son went to the Marines and went to boot camp, I was already, divorced and out of there. Um, so, but he came home and he had a wife and a kid, and he told me that one day he's laying in the bed and uh, no one else was home but him, his wife, and the baby, and someone was grabbing the doorknob to the bedroom and was like shaking it, just like shaking it real hard, the door.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And that house had burglar bars, the front and the back door, and even the side door had bars on it where you couldn't
Right.
get in or out without anybody knowing, and everything was locked. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible. My in-laws got COVID just about the same time, and they were both put in the hospital. So when they came out of the hospital, they were pretty weak yet, and they live in a 3-story house. So we were like, just come stay with us. Everything's on one floor. You don't have to worry about steps and all this. And my mother-in-law would come out and say, Gwen, were you talking at 2:30 in the morning? I heard you talking. And I'm like, I'm sure I'm in bed sleeping at 2:30 in the morning. So I put a voice recorder in the hallway, and I didn't even tell my husband. I just turned it on, sat it up like on top of a picture frame. And a few weeks went by before I actually listened to it. But when I did, at like 2:30 in the morning, there was a female voice that said, "Watch them." And I was the hair stood up like on the back of my neck, and I like screamed for my husband, like, "Get in here and listen to this!" Like, it was incredible. I also couldn't listen to the rest of it. So freaked out that I was like, but those things are pretty cool. They're pretty cool. Yeah. It's interesting because you never know what you're going to get or what's going to happen. It keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
We have things here that go missing.
Okay.
Like for 2 years, we had a glass that was missing. And then one day you come upstairs, in the morning, and it was sitting on the counter. And you're like, where did you find that glass?
Yeah.
What glass? I don't know what you're talking about. Well, the glass showed up. It's on the counter. And you're like, I didn't put that glass there. So you wonder, where did they keep these things for 2 whole years? Like,
so one day, and I don't know how much time you got left, but there's one more cool story. We had, where I'm at now, I wouldn't call it an active place or even that it's haunted, but sometimes stuff goes on that's kind of weird. So I had some tweezers, and I was looking for these tweezers, and I couldn't find them. And I know where I always keep them. There's like this little shelf right above my sink, the faucet. I've got a shelf there, and I keep the tweezers right there. And I came in there one day, and I'm like, they're gone. I use them here in the restroom.
Right.
I went and asked my son. I said, "Hey, did you get my tweezers?" He's like, "No." So like for 2-3 days, I couldn't find them. And then one morning, I got up, getting ready to go to work. Going to take a shower. The tweezers were in the sink, but not just the tweezers, but my razor, which I haven't used, that I keep in it on the shower caddy, was in the sink also.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So my razor and my tweezers were both in the sink, and I know they weren't there the night before because I brushed my teeth and clean up before I go to bed.
Right.
And I wake up in the morning to get ready, and they're both in the sink. And I don't shave at the sink; I shave in the shower.
Right.
Oh
my gosh.
Yeah. That's the only kind of weird thing that ever happened here, really.
Oh wow. We can't figure out what this house that we live in. My husband is only the second owner, and it was built in 1999. So nobody's ever passed away here. He knew the previous owners, so we can't figure out who some of these people are. I think one of them is my grandmother, and one of them is a little boy that I brought home with me from a call on the ambulance. But
okay.
The other ones, I have no idea who they are. I could have brought them home too. Who knows? But
yeah, like the house that I grew up in, which my mom still lives there to this day. It was built like in the 70s, and we were the second owner. The neighborhood that we moved into was a pretty much brand new neighborhood, and the owners that had lived there before us, they only lived there a couple of years before they moved. And it wasn't until, you're talking about 30 years later or so, that my mom saw a little boy in the house.
Oh.
Yeah, she saw a little boy in the house, and I saw, the Hat Man there, when I was like 21. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I saw him there. My niece's ex-husband saw him in the same room. And then my nephew, when he was like 5 or 6, he saw him. Dude, it scared him. He started screaming and crying.
Now,
Yeah.
I have to ask you about this Hat Man.
Okay.
Can you describe him?
So when I saw him, he had on a trench coat. He had on a fedora, and this is even before like really the internet, because like I said, I was 21, so there had to be like 91, 92. Yeah. Um, I was asleep, and I just looked up and I saw him standing next to my closet. He walked over there to me and stood right next to my bed. I couldn't scream. I was trying to call for my dad, and I couldn't call for my dad. And I don't know what made me do it, but I was able to. At this time, I was young and crazy. I had a shotgun under my bed. And I was able to grab it, and when I raised up, he was gone. He was gone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
In about I'm going to say 78 or 79, in the old house we lived at in town here, I remember seeing a man standing in our living room with a hat. It was like he had a dark suit on. He had no face, but it was all like real dark. But he never moved. He just stood there. And like the next time you would see him, he would be over here. And maybe the next time he'd be over here, but he never moved. He just stood there. And
Okay.
I just always assumed everybody saw him, right?
Right.
And he doesn't really scary. But
Yeah.
it wasn't until like 5 years ago that I brought it up to my mom, and she's like, "Why didn't you tell me? I never seen anything like that." And I was like, "I don't know. Like, I was 5. I
Right.
just assumed everybody saw him standing there, but he never." So when I hear people tell me about a Hat Man experience, I'm always like, how did he act? Did he do anything? Did he just stand there? Like, because that's a phenomenon. I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
I had these experiences with this Hat Man, but he never did anything. He just stood there.
Yeah.
And I, for forever, have been trying to figure out what the purpose was.
Yeah.
Was he just watching over? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what he is, but I've talked to people. I had a coworker who saw him in his house like twice. His father-in-law actually saw him standing on the sidewalk looking at his house. Yeah, he
Oh
didn't know who he
my.
was. Yeah. He was walking his dog, and when he passed up his street, he looked down, and he saw this man in the black trench coat and the black hat standing on the sidewalk looking at my buddy's house. And he walked down to the next street, walked down that, and was going to come back down my buddy's street. And as he was coming back down, the guy was walking away. And when he got to that intersection and he made a right, his father-in-law got down there. When he looked for the guy was gone.
Wow.
But his dog was like growling at him and stuff too.
Wow.
And his dog, he had a good dog too. His dog wasn't like that aggressive at all.
Right. That's incredible. Those Hat Man stories are intriguing. People have all different kinds of experiences with Hat Men.
Yeah,
So-
a lot of different experiences. And
I don't,
it's interesting. I would love to find out
Yeah.
more about the entity. I mean, and I have probably different theories out there, but I mean, who really knows? Because
no.
you don't really find out anything from these encounters. You just
No.
kind of find out that they're there 1 second and they're gone the next,
Yeah.
and
And you're left with more questions than answers
Yeah.
every time.
Right.
Every time.
Right.
Because somebody recently had said something about Ron Moorhead and his quantum theory thing, and I said, I mean, I don't know if Ron's right or Ron's wrong, right?
Yeah.
None of us do, but I'm like, it's not that far of a stretch, really. I mean, if you believe in paranormal and how spirits and entities move and can be there 1 second and not there the next second, I'm like, I could see where Ron Moorhead's theory could have some merit, but
Yeah.
I mean,
But you talk to hunters, and I'm sure you probably know hunters have told you they've walked right up on deer, or deer walk right up on them, and these things aren't jumping through portals.
No,
at least,
no.
at least that I know of. I've gone squirrel hunting, and these doggone squirrels will just disappear. And you're like, where did this little butthead go? Yeah.
But if you weren't hunting for squirrels, they'd be making, so much
Yeah.
noise.
Right.
Yeah, but when you're looking for them, they're silent.
Yeah.
Silent. Yeah.
But like I said, I talked to a lot of hunters, and they're like, they actually got like called on the radio from their hunting partner, like, hey, there's a deer right there next to you. And they're like, what? They're like, yeah, there's a deer next to you. And they'll look and their freaking deer's like on the other side of a brush or something. They never even knew it, you know.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can be sneaky. I've
Yeah.
hunted my whole life, and I had a fawn like almost run me over.
Mhm.
I didn't even hear her coming, and she didn't see I was sitting there, and she got like within 5 feet of me and was like, of course, I equally went like this,
Yeah.
and then she ran in another direction. But yeah, she was full bore running at me, and I didn't hear her coming. So it's almost like she floated there. It's like she wasn't even touching the ground; she was just
Yeah.
running. So yeah. Well, it's been wonderful talking to you.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you too. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome for you to come on. What's next for you? Would you have any big things coming up? Any big guests that you want to?
I do a show every Monday. I don't know who I have coming on this Monday, unfortunately. I never remember. You know, especially this week. I did your show today. I did another show yesterday. Then I did my show on Monday. So I've been kind of busy, and I've been trying, like I told you, ever since this hurricane, and I got power back. I've been calling all kinds of people, so I don't remember who I have. But
Yeah.
my shows are mainly on Monday. They're on Facebook and YouTube Live, and then you can find them on Spotify. All the replays. But, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you too.
We'll have to have you back sometime.
Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
To everybody watching, I want to thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's see. I think our next guest, let me check my calendar because I also don't remember who's coming when. Let's see. It is the 15th. We're going to have John Statsco Jr. on to talk about some of his experiences. And Saturday, if you're in the Pennsylvania area, or in my area, I should say, Pennsylvania is pretty big. Hop on down to the Central PA Bigfoot and Cryptid Festival in Aylesburg. We have 90 plus vendors, 9 food trucks, 5 speakers, all kinds of fun stuff for the kids to do. So it'll be a lot of fun. Come on down and see that. And I think that's it. Again, thank you, Joe, for coming on with us.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you. Everybody, have a good night.
This has been a CARC Universal production.